I want to remind you, we created something in America that I think didn't exist in other places, the Mega-Masjid, where 40 years ago, the blacks were in one place, the Pakistani was in another, the Egyptian was in another. Then we created the paradigm of the ISNA paradigm, the Mega-Masjid. Everybody came to the masjid, no matter what your background was. And that was great, but we only came together for that 1 hour. That population in the Mega-Masjid, we've discovered something, even in the masajid that are very women-friendly or convert-friendly or whatever, that the core client of the masjid is the one I call the lammer. La. They are, no. They are the ones who are the judge, jury, and the executioner, right? They pray there 5 times a day. Maybe it's a men's senior citizen center sometimes, right? They're the core client. We can bring the politician in at Jumu'ah, but we can't bring them in the evening. Yes.
I'm going to cut you off because I want to get to positive. I want to get to what's going right. I want to get to the places that are.
I think these mega masajid are moving in the right direction, but they haven't taken the other 167 hours back. It is creating that wider engagement. I think you've listed a number of them. I moved to Sterling, Virginia, so that my family could be in walking distance of the Adams Center, because Muhammad Majid is one of my teachers. And my children see that masjid as a place that they can go to on their own. They can just walk from their house, and there are phenomenal youth directors that are engaging. My son did an environmental project for recycling in the masjid. Our masjid now has reduced its use of consumables as a personal contract by 30%. So it's greening. It's a greening community. There are many other communities that are doing these things.
Imam Johari and then Dr. Sajidina.
I'm sorry.
We had,
please.
I think the exchange is good, But I had a group of journalists come to our masjid, and they were doing a study on why people came to houses of worship. Christians, Jews, Hindus, etc. And I said, well, I know you haven't finished your study, but can we break the seal on what it is that you know so far? He said, well, let me tell you what we learned. We learned that in worship there are 2 axes. I'm not having a Christian flashback. One axis is you want to have a relationship with God, a relationship that's transcendent. But then you also want in religion to have a horizontal axis where you have fellowship. He said, we discovered that in the church and the synagogue and the other places, people primarily go for the horizontal axis, to have fellowship, to have ministries with one another. And in the masjid, they go to have a vertical relationship. So their concern is, the hadith said that the reward is 25 or 27 times. So they want a high-speed dial-up in the masjid, right? So as many people as they can get to pray, and they have that Egyptian flashback or whatever flash. So they say, we are really connected to Allah because there's so many people here with us. But if you died, and we had this in my masjid, an old man, he used to sit in the corner in the front on the left-hand side. Nobody knew his name, because the only thing that they needed him for was to fill in the gaps. And they were happy to see him so that he would fill the gap. But the issues of having community, it is something that we as Muslims have to learn from the other faith traditions in America. And they have something to learn from us.
How many mosques have you seen with visitor cards? Yeah. When I went to church, you couldn't walk in a church house without getting tackled by someone who didn't know you, with a big hug and saying, welcome, brother, here's a visitor card. And just the idea of negotiating faith is important, because what that does is allow us to consider other factors which affect that relationship. Sex in our community is a big issue. No one talks about it, right?
Except in the MSA.
Yeah.
And even then.
Muslim.com does it.
The Muslim Matrimonial Society.
Issue of creedal problems that people are running into, just dealing with modernity as a whole. is affecting how they negotiate their faith. Marital problems that are just swept under the rug, right? Spousal abuse of children is happening in our community. We're not really talking about it. And our rug is so big now, if we walk in the front room, we're going to trip. You fall over, right? And also the idea of loneliness. Something I've noticed since I've come back 3 months in America only is at the larger communities, I find people are more lonely. Yeah. So I was at an Eid prayer where there were like 12,000 people. Afterwards, I had dinner with a friend I've known for a number of years and his wife. And he said, you know, we just have one problem here. I was like, what? He said, we're lonely. Like, how could you be lonely? You just said 12,000 people here, right? And he said, well, they're good at having events after events, saving the world. Muslims are, you know, on the cusp, as he talked about, focusing on these things. But he said, we don't really have community building functions. We're nationally connected, but we're not locally connected. Yeah. So negotiating will cause us to look at a number of factors.